from New York. This is Inside Power Station at Berklee NYC. I'm your host, Stephen Weber. On today's episode, hip-hop DJ and recording artist Rob Swift sits down with me to talk about his life as a world-renowned turntablist, his epic musical collaborations, and his drive to educate the next generation of aspiring DJs. And musical guest Fouad Dakwar performs his song, Hue of Rose. DJ Rob Swift is a hip-hop DJ, turntablist, record producer, and educator hailing from Queens, New York. Rob established himself early on in his career, winning the 1992 DMC East Coast DJ Championship and performing with the popular DJ crew, The Executioners. An avid collaborator, Rob has worked with a host of legendary artists, including Mike Patton, Dan the Automator, Handsome Boy Modeling School, Bob James, Herbie Hancock, and many others. Rob has also established his own DJ school, developing innovative educational programs for teaching DJing and turntablism online. Rob Swift recently stopped by Power Station to speak with me about his early years getting into the DJ scene, his groundbreaking solo albums, and his views on the important role DJs play in moving and healing society through music. Rob Swift, welcome to Inside
Steven,
Power Station at Berklee NYC.
Pleasure to be here, man.
Man, it's so great to have you. So great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so psyched to have you here because I consider you to be, a real pivotal figure in the world of turntablism and DJing and hip hop and just music education in general. Take us all the way back to the beginning, because I know that most people becoming a DJ is almost a way of rebelling, but your dad was a DJ, right?
Yes. For me, becoming a DJ was a way of emulating my father and my brother.
Wow. Yeah.
My dad immigrated to New York City in the late 60s, I want to say 1969, from Colombia, South America.
Yeah.
Got himself established, found work at a factory, and then sent for my mom and my older brother from Colombia to come here. And then they had me in 1972. So I was the firstborn American of the family. And, for anyone out there watching, listening to us, that's an immigrant to this country, you can empathize with the plight that someone that doesn't live here or have roots here experiences economically. And so my dad had to find work at a factory, I remember. And just hearing myself say that, I get emotional because I remember how much my parents struggled. We lived in a one-bedroom apartment in Jackson Heights, Queens. Wow. My dad was like, all right, I gotta make extra money. This factory job isn't enough to support my family. So he saved up, purchased DJ equipment, and started DJing parties for his other immigrant friends that ended up in Queens, New York City, specifically Jackson Heights. So they would hire him to do birthday parties, weddings, Christmas parties, New Year's Eve parties, and the whole family, my brother, myself, my mom, would help him package and transport all of his gear and then help him set it up. And then I'd sit there and watch my dad move people, literally physically move people without speaking, just by the music that he was playing. He'd get a group of people that were sitting, standing, walking over to the living room or the middle of the dance floor if we were in some church hall, and then moving and laughing and smiling. And it just seemed like a superpower to me. And I was sold.
Absolutely. Wow. What styles of music was he playing?
So in Colombia, the popular genre is cumbia. it's sort of like a slow house.
Yeah. Oh, no.
But with congas and timbales and deep bass lines, you know. Also salsa, which is more from the Central America area. Cuban, mambo, Dominican, merengue.
Yeah.
These were the styles of music that my dad played. Now, I was born in 1972. I know I don't look it. And so I am grateful to have been born in the first decade of hip hop.
Right. Yeah.
I'm also super appreciative to have had, at the time, an older brother that was immersing himself into this renaissance, this music that was just bubbling in the Bronx and then spreading out to the other areas of New York City. We lived in Jackson Heights. And so while my dad was spinning salsa, merengue, cumbia, mambo, my brother was being influenced by his Black and Puerto Rican friends' parents' record collections.
Yeah.
James Brown, funk, Bob James, jazz, Aerosmith, rock.
Yeah.
A lot of people may not realize that in the first decade of hip hop, A, it wasn't called hip hop. There was no name for it.
Yeah.
And B, the music was a compilation of many different styles of music because there were no record labels releasing hip hop music. Right.
Yeah.
So if it had a dope beat, if it had the kind of energy that would make people dance, you played it regardless of the genre.
Yeah.
And what you did to the music is what made it, quote unquote, hip hop. And so my brother, when my dad would leave to go to work and my mom would take off with him and we had school days off, my brother would call his friends and ask them to bring their parents' record collections over to our house because we had the gear. So they would bring the records over to our house and then I'd sit there in the living room and watch my brother make magic. And now I have two influences in the household that were showing me what DJing is in this very personable, grassroots, intimate way. And naturally, I just wanted to emulate my dad and my brother, and I was sold.
Right. That's awesome, man. What are some of your earliest memories of getting out there in front of people as a DJ, outside of the bedroom, outside of the apartment, actually getting out in public and trying it on for size on your own, out there?
I was in the 6th grade, maybe 6 or 7 months into DJing.
Wow.
I found out that my junior high school, IS 145 in Jackson Heights, Queens, was gonna have a GO dance, like a dance for the school.
Okay.
I asked the principal to let me DJ the dance and he was like, cool. And they paid me $50.
Wow.
And I DJ'd for about 2 hours in our school gymnasium.
Cool.
And it was awesome because no one outside of Psycho Les from the Beatnuts, my classmate, knew I was a DJ.
Yeah.
I say that to say when I got to the school, my dad, I remember, helped me transport the equipment. Now it was him helping me transport the equipment to the school, and he helped me set everything up. Wow. And I started DJing. The kids started trickling inside the gymnasium, and they saw me, and they were like, "Rob, you DJ?" And they were looking at me like I wasn't their classmate. They were looking at me like I was this star, and that was my first experience DJing for people, and it just made a huge impact on me because now, unlike when I was younger and I was watching my dad control people, it was me doing the controlling. Yeah. And that really just wakes up something inside you that you just want to experience constantly, it was the coolest experience. From there, people started asking me to DJ there. birthday parties, just like my dad. You know, I would take the equipment to friends' houses and DJ birthday parties or New Year's Eve parties or Christmas parties.
Yeah.
Gradually, I started learning more about battling and DJs that were doing more than just curating sets for people to dance to, but actually using the turntable as instruments.
Right, right. Tell me about your early days of battling. Do you remember your very first battle? Or
Well, in 1990, I went to my first battle, opposed to sitting at home and listening to it. Now I'm at an actual competition, and I see all of my heroes in this theater on Times Square, 42nd Street, where they were having this battle. All of the guys that I was listening to in the previous years via Johnny Juice's college radio show, now they're all in front of me, and I'm like, there's Aladdin, and there's Steve D, and there's Chuck Chilla, and there's Red Alert, and like, wow, this is amazing. And I had the same experience that I did watching my dad DJ for the first time in public for his friends, but on steroids. And what I mean by that is, like, I remember seeing Steve D from Harlem, New York City, the guy that won the 1990 New Music Seminar Battle for Supremacy, do these routines that I was hearing on the radio, but live, and then seeing people's reactions to these routines. And it was like I was watching a guy do magic, but sonically, and then seeing people respond in real time, again, just made a huge impression on me. And I was just like, I am doing this next year. And then I entered my first battle in 1991, March, and placed third. And it was amazing. And I don't have the video. It's 1991, you know? I don't have the video, but I have the cassette. And sometimes when I listen to it, Steven, like I tear up even, because it was like, just like, from watching my dad to then, starting DJing in 1983 to 1991, without me asking for it, things just lined up perfectly, perfectly for me to grow and be in the scenarios that I needed to be, in the environments that were conducive for me to grow and end up sitting in this chair in front of you, to be honest. So I entered my first battle in 91, placed third, and a year later, because that wasn't good enough, I entered the same battle and won. And so it's been a really cool trajectory. So talk about the X-Men and the Executioner years, and you know, touring with a crew like that. You know, what was that like? We basically wanted to just battle, in the early days of me being inducted into the group. But I also knew that I wanted to battle, but for so long. And so we all decided we were gonna retire from competition and DJ for rappers, for rap groups, and experience touring, because when you DJ in a battle, you're in front of maybe 500 people, maybe 1,000 people at a venue. But when you're touring, you're reaching people in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, if you're going overseas. And on top of that, there isn't a panel of judges scoring your performance. If anything, when you're on tour, when you get off stage, you're getting paid to be creative, and no one's judging you. Everyone's just accepting what you have to give as a person on turntables, DJing. So we did that for a few years, and then I rounded the guys up again and had the same conversation, like, all right, at some point we should think about expanding. And we ended up signing a record deal with an independent record label out of San Francisco named Asphodel. And we released the first album, hip hop album, by an all DJ group. And it was called Expressions, and it came out in 1997. And we released our second album on a major label this time called Built From Scratch.
Yeah.
And the popular song on that album is called It's Going Down.
Right.
Featuring Linkin Park.
Mm-hmm.
And the song just catapulted us to the next stratosphere of what this DJing thing turned out to be. And now we're just in music videos on MTV, we're on K-Rock radio, we're performing in arenas with Eminem and Limp Bizkit and System of a Down.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Wow. Let's talk about your solo career then.
Mm-hmm.
So you start, making records on your own.
Mm-hmm.
What's your process to, of composition, of figuring out what you're going to do, what the arc is going to be of the piece of work. Give us a glimpse into your process.
I have a song with a jazz pianist called Bob James.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Called Salsa Scratch.
Sure. Right.
And it's featured on my second solo album,
Yeah.
Sound Event. And on that song, it's basically me paying tribute to my Colombian heritage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a salsa song that was created with scratches.
Mm-hmm.
So if you separate the song into different stems, you'll hear every element aside from maybe the trumpet that's being played and the pianos. Every element of the song is someone scratching
Yeah.
in the bass line or the shaker.
Yeah.
And so a song like that is just me being experimenting, being
Yeah.
creative.
Yeah.
And so that urge to exercise these ideas that I had inside me needed to come out. And so I signed my first independent record contract with Asphodel. Now I have this freedom, and now I'm interacting with music in a way that was just introducing me to other forms of music.
Yeah.
I did an album that's classical oriented,
Right.
but through the lens of a person scratching on turntables called The Architect.
Right,
And I released that with Epicac Records. And you listen to it, and there are movements within the album and a lot of orchestral type sounds.
Yeah.
And I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that my solo career is very experimental, and each album, there's a different side of my personality that I'm sharing with you.
You've kind of really become known as a musician as well, as a turntablist, and I'm thinking, of course, about your work with Herbie Hancock and Bob James and other people. How did that come about? And talk to me. I'd love to know about Future to Future, how that came about, and your experience with Herbie.
Yeah, it's like overwhelming when I think about like the stuff that like you're reminding me of stuff that like as a kid I'm reading credits from the back of like Bob James 2.
Yeah.
And Herbie Hancock's Rocket, and who engineered the song, and
Yeah.
who played piano and bass. And now I'm working with these guys. It's crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
But I think because of my willingness to experiment as a DJ, my music fell into the hands of the right people.
Yeah.
And the right people introduced me to these artists.
Yeah.
As far as Herbie Hancock is concerned, Bill Laswell, who is another legendary producer,
Right.
reached out to me, was aware of what this guy Rob Swift is doing with music and turntables, and asked me to be a part of an album that he was releasing on Axiom Records. And the specific song that he was wanting me to be featured on was also going to feature Grand Mixer DST, who appeared on Rocket. When you think about how serendipitous my career has been, and like how I've ended up in all these places with these influential artists, it's overwhelming. And to answer your question, I think my solo career took the shape that it did because I was so open-minded.
Yeah.
And people wanted to work with me.
So 50 years from now, when people look back on your career, what do you hope to leave in your wake? What do you hope people will be thinking about when they look back over your contribution to the art form?
I'm hoping that 50 years from now, when I'm, in some other place, some other galaxy, not on this globe, DJing anymore, I'm hoping that 50 years from now, people will remember me for being passionate about DJing, for always trying to push the art form forward, for challenging people on how they see the art of DJing, whether it was someone that didn't recognize the turntable for being the instrument that it is, or whether it was someone that thought you didn't need a turntable to learn the organic approach to DJing.
Yeah.
Staying true to the art form, giving back, being selfless. I feel like a lot of times as a DJ, if you're opinionated and you speak in a way that might be unpopular, sometimes people or groups or cliques marginalize you, and that never scared me because I've always been for the truth of this art form, and I've always been for the foundation, and I know and understand whose shoulders we stand on. And so speaking from those terms and being diligent about it is something that I've always prided myself on, and that's how I would like to be remembered. Someone that, first and foremost, his allegiance was to the craft of the art form above anything else. And yeah, man, that's really all.
That's beautiful, man. Rob Swift, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Steven.
Inside
It's
Power
been a
Station
pleasure.
at Berklee NYC.
Thank you so much.
You're the best, man.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
so much. From New York.